If you saw my LEGO Deadpool minifigure video, then you'd know that I like finding ways to get expensive minifigures for much cheaper than they actually are. And that's exactly what we're going to do today with Dr. Doom. Seeing as how his minifigure now goes for at least $80 online, it's not something I want to pay for. Most likely due to the news that broke this summer about him being in a new Marvel movie. But I'm going to work my magic and make one for much cheaper. In order to get the ball rolling on making this Dr. Doom minifigure just right, I researched hundreds of different minifigure pieces on Bricklink for hours on end. That way, I would find the perfect pieces that not only resemble the original minifigure that came out in 2013, but also accurately depict Dr. Doom as a whole. I'm eventually going to display it in my Marvel City next to characters like my custom Silver Surfer I made, so I gotta make sure that it fits in. Luckily, LEGO has made plenty of different green and dark green legs and torsos for minifigures over the years that I had plenty to choose from for my Dr. Doom. However, some of the pieces I found that would work well were either pretty expensive or difficult to acquire. But there were two inexpensive options for torsos that I ended up buying and testing out, and I think the second one I tried will work great. For my first option of minifigure torso, it's actually coincidentally from another Marvel villain, the Mandarin from 2013. This torso is from an Iron Man 3 set, and I liked the regal vibe that was going on the front here. It also has some detail on the back with this collar and some creases in the fabric, but this was kind of the vibe I was going for overall with my Dr. Doom. However, I didn't love all the gold that was on there, and it kind of looked like there was an arc reactor in the middle, so I didn't really want to go with this one. I thought it was pretty close, and it's a good option, but I think there's one that's better. My second option for minifigure torso here was the peasant minifigure from the Lion Knight's castle. And at first glance, you might be able to tell that it's actually a female torso. You can kind of see with the waist there a little bit, but honestly, without looking too hard, you can't really tell at first glance. And honestly, when it's all put together with the rest of the minifigure pieces, I feel like the chest will just kind of look like it has pecs or something, and I mean, Dr. Doom is pretty shredded, so I think that'll fit right in. Plus, I liked that it had a belt here, and the collar and the stitching on the collar. I think that all works really well, and I'm going to take these white arms off anyway, so the arms on the torso didn't really matter. The belt also wraps around to the back printing here as well, so I feel like once I swap those white arms out, it'll work really well for Dr. Doom. Plus, I think this torso is actually closer to the original minifigure in looks compared to the Mandarin one, so I think this is the one I'm going to go with. And since I've removed the white arms, we're going to need a replacement for them. So I'm going to be putting on these flat silver metallic arms instead. I also wanted some arms that had flat silver hands as well, but if you know anything from my Silver Surfer video, you know those hands are kind of hard to come by. So for right now, we're just going to use these dark gray hands, and I might switch them out later with metallic silver ones if I get the chance. So now that we got the arms on, let's look at some options for legs. Originally, my first thought in making legs for Dr. Doom was to use these flat silver legs that match the arms. I also used these legs on my Silver Surfer minifigure. However, I don't know if these are just what I'm looking for. Seeing as Dr. Doom usually has some kind of dark green tunic that drapes down to where his boots would be, I don't really want these full metal legs. It's a good option if it's all you have, but I think I could come up with something a little bit better than this, so we're going to keep looking. Once I did a little bit more research, I found these legs that start with dark green on the top portion of the legs and then go down to pearl dark gray for some boots. So I think this is going to be a better fit for our Dr. Doom here. These legs are from the Series 15 collectible minifigures Frightening Knight. And I actually also almost considered using the torso from that minifigure for this Dr. Doom, which at that point I would have basically just been using that CMF for the torso and the legs and then just swapping the arms out. But I still like my peasant minifigure torso I have here in conjunction with the Frightening Knight legs, because I like how you can still see some of that silver, that flat silver metallic there in the middle to match the arms, but also then you still have kind of this pearl dark gray, which is also close to silver for the boots, but then you also get that green for the tunic there, and you can also see the belt kind of hanging down there, so it matches pretty well with the torso here, even though it's a slightly different shade of brown, but I think as long as you're not looking too close, I think it looks pretty good. So then next we're going to add a cape, of course. I have this lighter green one. It doesn't match the green that's on my torso and legs here exactly, but it's the only one I had available. It's from an older Loki minifigure here. I think this is the one from 2012 or 2013, one of the older ones. I got the cape from, but once again, similar to how I might swap out these dark gray hands for some metallic silver hands, I might swap out this light green cape for a dark green cape down the road eventually. But since this is all I got right now, this will have to do. So I think the head is going to be one of the most important pieces that we put on here to make it look like either the original Dr. Doom minifigure or just some version of Dr. Doom. Because that original headpiece is pretty hard to replicate, it's pretty unique, but there are some options that I think will get us pretty close. While looking for different heads for this Doctor Doom minifigure, some of the ones that I came across in my research were things like different Dementors from Harry Potter or some of the Knights of Ren from Star Wars, but none of those got exactly what I wanted in the facial features. I also briefly considered this Terminator-looking minifigure head. It's pretty close to what I think Doctor Doom would look like. It has that metallic silver coloring, and it has some metal plating on the face, so I almost went with this one. I just didn't love the red eyes, so I kept looking a little bit further. I also briefly considered this Robot Zane minifigure head from Ninjago, but I had already used this on my Silver Surfer that I customized for my Marvel City, and I didn't really want to have two Marvel characters running around with the same face in my display, so I'm not going to use this one, but if any of you wanted to use this one, I think this one would also work well for Doctor Doom, because it does have that metal plating, that color, and it's pretty menacing too with that frown there with the teeth, so I think it would work well for some other people, but for me there's one in particular that I think I'm going to go with, and it's not this one. The head that I did decide to go with is a Cyber Biter from Nexo Knights. I think this is pretty much just as close as you can get for a Doctor Doom face without it being the original. I like that it has the green eyes, it has the metallic mouth there with kind of the frown that's going on, and it even has a dual face here, so if you want it to have teeth showing, I think this also works well for a Doctor Doom. I like this front face better, but the back face is also a good option if you want to go with that one. But I think either way you slice it, I think this is probably the closest you can get without using the original face. And of course, to cap it all off, we're going to use a dark green hood here. This is the same exact one that they use in the original Doctor Doom minifigure, so I'm not doing anything too groundbreaking here, but I think that's kind of the perfect color to cap off the rest of it. Once again, I wish I had a different cape color with the dark green, but I think I actually kind of like the contrast between the dark green torso and the lighter green cape. I think it actually works out pretty well. But before we throw our Doctor Doom in my Marvel City display, I think I'm going to give him a couple of these neon green electricity hand accessories from the Hocus Pocus set. I think just to give him a nice show of his powers here would be really cool. That way he can be zapping somebody in the display. So now that we've completed our Doctor Doom here with his green powers, let's throw him in the Marvel City display. So this is where we're going to be putting our Doctor Doom minifigure. I have my two bookcases here with some of my Nintendo stuff down below, but then I've got my Marvel stuff up here. So we got the Sanctum, the Bugle, and the Avengers Tower, but I think we're going to be putting Doctor Doom over here. So since I have my Silver Surfer kind of flying in between the two buildings here, I think, of course, I'll have to put Doctor Doom right next to him. So I think I'm going to have him perched up on the top of the Sanctum here, shooting these electric green lasers over at Silver Surfer, since he's always trying to get that surfboard for some power. So we're going to have them in the middle of the city here, duking it out between the two buildings. So if you enjoyed watching me cheat the LEGO resale market and getting a Doctor Doom minifigure for much cheaper than $80, let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.